Hello friends, welcome to UGC EPG Pathshala. Myself Dr. Taruna Bansal, Assistant Professor at the Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia, will discuss the doctrine of determinism in geography. This module is part of paper Geographical Thought. The learned objectives of this module are to introduce the doctrine of determinism in geography. Then we will discuss the path which determinism took in the geographical thinking. We will understand why this doctrine was vehemently criticized over the years, but still it still persists, and the conclusion is that can we actually go off, or rather can we actually avoid this particular doctrine or not. In the history of geographical thinking, human nature dialogue has been studied and analyzed through number of different perspectives and views. The first among these approaches was to deliberate upon the nature-human relationship, and this was done through the doctrine of determinism. In the words of Platt in 1948, determinism refers to the idea that everything in human life is caused certainly by preceding events or conditions. The primary initial source of determinists for explanation was the physical environment, and the theoretical order was centered on the belief that human activity was solely regulated and controlled by their environment. Determinism as a paradigm is one of the most significant beliefs which still continues in one form or other. In the context of this concept, it is believed that due to the difference in the natural environment, the variations in human behavior in different parts of the world can be described. The spirit of deterministic ideology is that the level of development, be it in history, culture, lifestyle, social group, or even nation, is solely ruled by none other than physical components of environment, and at any scale, that is, be it micro, macro, or mesoscale. Determinists consider human beings as a passive agent on whom physical factors are working continuously, determining their approach as well as decision-making process. In short, they believed that most of the activities of man can be elucidated as a response to the environment. Now, you know what we are doing is, or what when you read the literature which is associated with determinism, you will always find that the dialogue is, or the premise is, simply man-environment relationship, where nature determines man's activities. So, you know, over the period, if we see, it has still continued. It has been criticized by possibilists, by Spate when he gave the concept of probabilism, by Taylor somewhere when he was talking of stop and go determinism, by Sarr when he talks of morphology of landscape, of chorology. Even, you know, when we talk of when we talk of Radzi's part, even there somewhere we find that determinism was not touched as it should have been. But in spite of being that, this doctrine still persists, is still found in one form or the other. Now, determinism can be considered as a school, or rather as a paradigm within the environmentalism school. In number of literature you will see it is written environmental determinism or environmentalism. Now, there has always been a debate that should these terms be used synonym to each other or should be discussed separately, but that is a different debate. Here what I am trying to put forward is that determinism as an individual concept, as an individual doctrine, persisted, or rather persists in geography in spite of having number of ups and downs. And in this section I will be discussing what was the path, that means how determinism reached its present level from the initiation of geographical thinking. In the discipline of geography, the paradigm of environmentalism had motivated extensive deliberation in the emerging field of geography. In this discipline, the terms environmentalism and determinism have often been used as synonyms, with the simple definition that the natural environment is accountable for all human actions. But we are not going into the detail because we know they are not identical. What we are going to emphasize is on that this paradigm holds a special place in geographical thinking. In the words of Beck in 1985, environmental determinism was the center of one of the longest debates in the history of the social science of geography. Moreover, it provided geography the definition that it is the study of man-environment relationships. In spite of years of debate over the issue, the idea has prevailed and continuously stirred the academia, though it was eventually discarded by the majority, considering it unworthy of future discussion. In spite of this, the philosophy of determinism has re-emerged intermittently as it continues to be revived among various scholars. A considerable work has been done in recent years on this perennial theme of man and environment, and it leaves little doubt that though some have pronounced determinism dead, it may prove to be, as Speight writes in his article, Quantity and Quality in Geography, which was published in the Annals of the American Geographers in 1960, that determinism is like an immortal bird not born for death. That simply means, what Speight is trying to say, that whatever happens, determinism will stay alive in geography. So you cannot go away with it. You have to take this into mind, that if you are studying geographical thought, if you are analyzing geographical thinking which has developed over the period of time, you have to see determinism, you have to analyze, you have to perceive determinism, and how over the time geographers have seen this particular doctrine within the ambit of geographical thinking. So, environmental determinism was geography's entry into modern science. Peat says that the genetic roots of geography enabled it to serve as a highly significant component of legitimization theory in the naturalism fashionable in the post-Darwin period, when science rather than religion legitimated social actions. Fulfilling this ideological function, together with providing associated practical skills, that is exploration, mapping, boundary drawing, geography, a modern reproduced science developed. Determinism as an approach attempted to explain the imperial events of late 19th and early 20th century, when capitalism was there in scientific way. Thus, it solidified geography's position among the sciences as an analytical science. So, what is happening when number of these techniques were used, even today we are using remote sensing and GIS, what it has done is it has made geography more analytical, more scientific, thus making geography an ideological subject or discipline within the entire sphere of natural sciences. To understand determinism and why it became an ideological pariah in human geography, it is essential to consider its historical context. In the context of the effect of natural conditions, the first attempt was made by Greek and Roman scholars explaining the physical characteristics and character traits of different people and their culture. At that time, this effort was not contained only among geographers, rather included scholars from different fields like Hippocrates, who was a doctor, philosopher Aristotle, and historians Polybius, Herodotus, to name few. In the Greco-Roman era, regional studies were closely tied with the study of history. Polybius and Thucydides saw Athens' natural conditions and geographical positions as factors which resulted in its greatness. So, you see, even the nation's growth, how nation is growing was associated with geographical conditions. So, that was how man environment was studied when we talk of Greek scholarship. Aristotle explained the difference between Northern Europe and Asian people in the context of climatic causes, while explaining the greatness of Rome. While mentioning similar incidents, Strabo argued that the cold weather in Europe was the reason for their bravery. Aristotle thought that people living in hot weather in Asia were wise, but there was a lack of soul, and therefore time to time they were subjected to slavery. Because humans often consider their home as the best place, it is not surprising that Aristotle believed that the best combination of all possible worlds was in the center of the space, Greece. Aristotle also advocated the progress of some countries in the result countries is the result of their favorable conditions. In the Middle Ages, French scholar Montesquieu explained that in cold weather people are less physically strong, more courageous, clear, less susceptible and less cunning than those in hot weather. He quotes that people in the hot weather are terrible, weak in body, dull and inactive. Determinist approach even dominated the writings of Arab scholars. They divided the world into 7 terrestrial zones on the basis of climate and highlighted the physical as well as the cultural characteristics of castes and castes of these particular regions. Al-Biruni, Al-Masudi, Ibn Haqal, Al-Idrisi, Ibn Khaldun, they all attempted to correlate environment with human conditions or rather human activities and said that the relationship is within the conceptual domain of determinism. In the 18th century, George Statham also explained the differences among the people in relation to the difference between the countries in which they lived. Similarly, Kant was also a determinist who had said that people of New Holland kept half-closed eyes and touch their back, they would not see their head at any distance without bending. Malthus was also a scientific determinant. He not only emphasized the effect of different environments, but also emphasized the boundaries that were imposed in social milieu because of these different environments. Deterministic reasoning continued in the 19th century also, when geography was related to other sciences. Karl Ritter, a German geographer regarded as one of the founding fathers of modern geography, adopted an anti-human approach and laid the philosophical base of determinism in geography. He tried to make a difference in the physical constitution of the body and health of men living in different physical environment. Many of his students considered geography as a study of relationship between people's density and the nature of their land. Many geographers who belonged to this school had declared that their main task was to identify the influence of physical, cultural, geographical conditions and the political fortunes of residents of any area in both East and present. Alexander von Humboldt, also considered to be the founding father of modern geography, along with contemporary Ritter, said that the life of the residents of a hill country is much different from those living in the plains. In the latter part of the 19th century and early decades of 20th century, the scientific environment was dominated by the views of Darwin and the acceptance of Newton's cause and effect relationships. The origins of scientific determinism are in the works of Charles Darwin, whose original book, we all know, published in 1859, The Origin of Species, influenced a number of geographers. The influence of evolutionary biology on the development of modern geographical thought is now widely accepted. Stoddart argues Darwin's biology played the crucial role in establishing the human's place or rather man's place in nature, thus making possible the very development of geography as a science. The organismic analogy overcame the methodological problems inherent in the study of human-environment relations, and therefore the dualism between natural and human phenomena was somewhere solved. This is what Stoddart says when he writes about Darwin's impact on geography. So, over the period of time we have come till the early part of the 20th century. Now, by the 20th century, American geography had become very dominant. So, you see, prior to that, in spite of number of debates, as I keep on saying that we had number of debates, determinism did exist. So, what happened in American geography at the end of the 20th century? The prevalent view that well fitted into the intellectual environment was nothing but determinism. Most of these were influenced by Darwin's idea, and this was further developed by William Morris Davies, who gave or rather established the cycle of erosion model in geomorphology. So, this is very interesting to see that when we talk of determinism, we are talking of man-environment relationship, but the impact, the influence of determinism was not restricted only to human geography. somewhere as determinism was influenced by Darwinism, it percolated even in physical geography. And we see that William Morris Davies, while giving his cycle of erosion model very well, in a very organized manner, talks of Darwinism. So, if there is, so what I would like to say here is that just stating that this particular doctrine is over or its influence is over does not solve our matter. We have to look into the historical context in which that particular philosophy evolved, and also how it has been established as well as criticized. So, we have to do analysis, and when we do that, then only we can say whether it had really been an integral part of geographical thinking or not. So, that is what I am trying to do with this particular philosophy of determinism here in this module. The primary concern was with documenting the control of influence of the environment on human society. Friedrich Ratzel, another German scholar, the founder of New Determinism, supplemented the classical geographical determinism with the elements of social Darwinism and developed the states theory of an organism. He believed in the existence of qualification and saw the man as the end product of development, a development which was natural selection of time according to the ability to adjust itself for the physical environment. He, along with his disciple or student, whatever you say, Ellen Churchill Semple, became the most vocal expression of the deterministic approach in geography. Semple, in her book, it's a very renowned book which was published in 1911, known as Influences of Geographical Environment, writes, I quote here, "Man is a product of the surface of the earth." That means she simply says what I said in the initiation of this module, that I consider that in deterministic approach we simply outline or we simply have the theme or the base that nature determines man's activities. So, somewhere I am also talking what Semple said in 1911, that man is the product of the surface of the earth, and this book had a widespread a long-lasting use in geographic education throughout America. She dominated the environmentalist period of the discipline in the early 20th century. So, Wright and Hartshorne say that large proportion of people who were using deterministic approach were basically following Semple's idea of determinism. Her essential scientific position was, again I quote, "In every problem of history there are two main factors, variously stated as heredity and environment. Man and his geographic conditions, the internal forces of race and the external forces of habitat. Now, the geographic element in the long history of human development has been operating strongly and operating persistently. Herein lies its importance. It is a stable force. It never sleeps. This natural environment, this physical basis of history is for all intents and purposes immutable in comparison with the other factor in the problem shifting, plastic, progressive, retrogressive man." So, her methodological statement cannot be questioned, as at one time she points out that the influence of environment, rather in climatic terms, on man, both as direct and indirect, cannot be questioned. She further elaborates that man was a passive agent who bears direct environmental influence at the early stages of development. But as he becomes more developed, he becomes more active. So, the indirect influences that mold his mind and character are basically economic and social in nature. Through her writings, she explained national superiority in the new terms of natural sciences. In the words of Pete, he says that she provided an environmental version of what he calls as scientific racism. The doctrine was further established by Huntington and Taylor. Huntington, in his book The Principles of Human Geography, published in 1945, a number of articles which he wrote on climate and civilization, demonstrated man's preference for ethnic type structures and environmental explanations. However, he repeatedly repeated the importance of a genetic constitution and threw his weight behind various genetic enterprises. He took the most decisive step since the time of Hippocrates and decided to make some results in the thinking of environmentalist cause. Taylor was much more conscious when he was relating man and environment. He believed that the environment has set the limits of human development. Their determinism was compared to the traffic control system. Now, this is interesting, when we talk of Taylor, we talk of neo-determinism, we talk of stop and go determinism, and this is somewhat different from what earlier determinists are saying. Taylor did his work extensively in Australia, and he says that man acts as a traffic policeman. So, you all must be aware that what is the job of a traffic policeman? He regulates the traffic. He regulates the traffic so that there is no chaos. So, that is what same Taylor says. He says that man works, the entire deterministic approach or the entire man-environment relationship is somewhat like traffic control system, where man sets the rate but cannot give direction of progress. That means I can build a road, but I do not know that where I am aiming to will lead to where I actually want to go. He further states that man is able to speed slow or stop the speed, but he should not be, if he is intelligent, departing from the instructions according to the natural environment. Therefore, man is just like a traffic control in a big city which changes the rate but does not give direction of progress. In later years, geographers like Mackinder, Chisholm, Davis, I already mentioned, Bowman, Geary, Sarr, Hubbardston, Taylor explained the progress of society with a deterministic approach. Many scholars have clearly made it clear that climate had affected the soil's physical property, which ultimately determines the crop pattern and depends on the habits, functions and behaviors of the residents' diet. The determinists over the years had assured that there is a great impact of the physical features on the location of the people in relation to mountains and plains at the level of their life and its level of development. Surprisingly, scholars would not adhere to this paradigm because of its power to have scientific persuasion. But why then people were attracted to determinism? They were trying to explain the new scientific terms of environmental causation within the ambit of geographical thinking. Hence, the focus on geographical determinants of society and history. That means, determinism was not there, like, people did not accept determinism just saying that it is there, okay, I have to take it. No, it was not the case. Determinism had some scientific persuasion. People got some logic behind it. They found some methodology in that particular doctrine and thought that to understand the relationship of man and environment within, I quote, within geography, we have to have a deterministic approach. But as everything has its criticisms, have its limitations, determinism too. What was the limitation? Its failure to realize the reflective difference between human beings and the rest of nature. Now, this is interesting. Why is it interesting? Because when you say man and nature, you are actually isolating man from nature. But when we study environment, especially when you study physical environment, you study biotic, abiotic and energy components. And in one of these components, man is part. But when you are studying man-environment relationship, you are keeping man out of environment. So that means environment is something apart from man. But that's not the case. And even if we go to social environment, everything apart from me is environment. Einstein said, environment is that I am not. That is everything that isn't me. In words of Einstein, environment is everything that isn't me. So when I say man, I'm actually, isolating man from environment. And if we do that, If we do that, I think we create some type of vacuum. That is why this is one of the biggest flaw of determinism. Man, through his social environment and productive capacity, had the ability of development. Moreover, human consciousness make this progress to be self-directed. So, what is the confrontation? What is the debate all about? Natural determination versus social determination. To include human social science, natural theory needs to be amended. The organismic analogy on which the entire epitome of determinism was erected proved incapable of providing the basis for such a human-oriented theory. Yet, the analogy persisted because it provided a convenient methodological tool in legitimation theory. As I already said, why we are talking of determinism even today? Because it was very convenient. It makes it very convenient to understand within geography how people have perceived man with its environment. So, it's just like you taking a simpler path or taking an easier path. But as I already mentioned, it has been vehemently criticized. So, we come to the third section, it is the criticism. After World War II, this philosophy was vehemently criticized in the United States, UK, Canada and many other countries. Geographers observed that this approach exaggerated the active role of nature while interpreting human history. The determinists only consider humans capable of being adapted, but man's efforts reveal many facts which the forces of the environment cannot explain. Barrows initiated a meek criticism from within the environmentalist paradigm, where he argues that the relations between man and environment should be seen from the standpoint of human adjustment, as this was more likely to result in the recognition and proper valuation of all the factors involved. I quote, I repeat, all the factors involved, and especially to minimize the danger of assigning to the environmental factors a deterministic influence which they do not exert. Sarr also had strong reservations, where he states that a transposition of divine law into omnipotent natural laws has caused the eager adherents of the faith of causation to sacrifice their earlier concerns in the name of rigorous dogma of naturalistic cosmology, most notably in American physiography and anthropogeography. He insisted that what man did it in an area involves the active agency of culture that shapes the landscapes. He criticizes the internal role in diminishing the place of determinism as the hegemonic theory of geography, and initiated redefinition as a social science concerned with areal differentiation. Now, the question arises that did Sarr provided a valid theoretical base which was an alternate to determinism? Peat states that the cultural geography of Blasch and Sarr failed to establish a comprehensive theory within the disciplines. In the 30s, 40s and 50s of the 20th century, geography drifted towards a regional perspective as determinism was being criticized. But it was criticized, but what was happening? It was not being replaced. And there were number of concepts which were in line to take its space. Now, what was this? We all know possibilism is one, neo-determinism, chorology, to name a few, and even ecological approach, human ecology, to name a few, which were there in queue to provide an alternative. But this does not happen. So, what was it? Determinism has not retreated from geography. Rather, a number of deterministic systems have been evolved to assist the interpretation of spatial patterns and have frequently been compressed into mathematical formula. There is sufficient room for analysis of both physical and cultural factors, quantitative laws and artistic synthesis. So, what was actually done? Determinism was redefined, renewed, refined and redirected, but was never completely dislodged. To conclude, we have to answer the question, then why? After years of scientific criticism, determinism as a viable scientific approach appears to live on. The most simplistic answer would be that alternatives to determinism were less than satisfactory, though there were potential replacements for determinism in the form of environmentalism, possibilism, probabilism, cultural ecology and chorology, among which possibilism and probabilism were the most prominent one. Each of them presumed humans were free agents who made choices from the innumerable factors available at the environment. So, how do I want to conclude is that, when we are criticizing, when we are defining, or we are arguing, we are deliberating about determinism, we are forgetting two things. The thing is that none of the determinists ever stated that humans did not have the ability to choose from among the alternatives offered in the environment. So, means we concentrated on one point. Secondly, there is no significant argument which says that other factors did not play important role in the development of human societies. In fact, no interpretation in the history of geography ever came close to the rigorous environmental determinism, because the questions which have been raised against determinism were never there within the ambit of determinism. Determinism does not, or rather determinists do not say that man is superior. They do not say that other factors are not playing the role. So, maybe some way the interpretation of determinism has some problem, and that is the reason that in spite of such a huge scientific criticism, this doctrine still persists. I hope you understand you understood the value, or the significance of determinism as a paradigm or as a school of thought within geography. Thank you.